So this is the video that I was kind of looking for when I first got my Cyber Commander, because this thing it's honestly pretty complicated. There's not much online that shows how to use this. I was just going to go through and show you guys how the menu system works here first. So there's basically three menus. There's this first one, which is flash power menu, and then a second menu, which shows all of your modeling lights. Your third menu, which is the settings menu. You can see here, this is the basic control function. Power, up, down, that changes how each of these is going to be. You can see that adjusting there on that Einstein, if I focus over there for a second. So when I go ahead and adjust this, the Einstein's quick to follow and gives me a little beep once it discharges the capacitors. Yeah, that's the left stick. That changes power if you change or press up and down. If you go left to right, it changes what Einstein or Paul Buff light you're changing power on. So you can see here, yeah, it just goes back through here. And all is what I use probably the most, just because it's really handy. Of course, then once you get everything figured out, then you can fine tune it. So yeah, once we get through that, we can go over here, which is our modeling light menu. So our modeling light menu, it basically is most useful for adjusting all of the modeling lights, either brighter or darker. As you can see there, that's a little overexposed. Can bring that back, drop it down to nothing. This is an amazing feature right here for when you're doing either work outside, when you're on vagabonds, because you can't use more than 15 watt seconds, or 15 watts per second. I think it's how it goes on the vagabond. So I usually just try to keep these at a low wattage, something around like 5 or 10, because usually I'm using it at night anyways. So anyways, let's go back to the modeling light menu. Yeah, and you can adjust each of these individually. So here I'm adjusting this flash number 1 or channel 1 here, and then I can go ahead and just adjust that back real easily to where all the rest of these are. Okay, going back to the settings menu, I'll show you how to set up all the different lights here. This is something that really tripped me up, because I got Einstein's with my Cyber Commander, and one thing I didn't know is that it doesn't really make sense. You'd think it would be under spec lights here, how you normally add lights here in the menu, but it's not. You're actually going to go up to here, open memory, and then you're going to select studio, and then as soon as you select the studio, it's going to just look around and find all the Paul Buff Einsteins in the room and pull all their settings in and pretty much do everything for you. So if you want to add lights besides Einstein's, you're going to have to go back to here to the menu and go to spec lights. This is all pretty straightforward. If you want to add a light, you can pretty much just hit alien B, pick out your alien B. Let's say it's a B1600. Pick out your modeling light. I think those are 150 watters. And then voila, it just updates it. So I'm going to actually go and remove that. I'll just go back to that thing we just went over, and go to open memory, and then hit studio again, and then it just updates it automatically for me. So now there's a lot of other things that are useful here in this menu, but I'm just going to show you a couple of the most useful things for me, at least. It's pretty much under light settings. That's where you're going to have most everything you're going to do. So this is, I think, the best features, where you can go in here and you can turn them all on full power. Oh, I got to switch to all lights here. So remember, the left joystick switches you from one light to all lights, and that goes the same for all the menus. So you can switch through all the channels while you're in these menus. So an example would be, if I switch to all, I can turn off all the lights at the same time, and then I can turn them all back on. Whereas if I switch to channel 1 and then go up here to tracking mode, I can turn just that light off, which it looks like this is just a little overexposed. So let's just tell that those all the track. But yeah, if we go to channel 1, we can go to full power here, and it won't affect any other lights, but we'll leave that there. So again, you can control all of these, turn them all on and off. All right, so I actually am a fan of the audio recycle indicator. There's also a modeling light recycle indicator, which basically just dims the light until the recycling is done, and then it comes back to full brightness. And then you can have both, of course, but audio is my favorite. Slave cell is this thing right here on top of the Einstein. It basically is going to trip the light off if there's any other flashes in the room. So let's say this thing fails, I can just throw a speed light on top of my camera and trip all my flashes with that. It's always a handy thing to have. Okay, so here's another thing. The color mode, which I'll show you a little bit this in a little more detail. So the action mode here is basically for faster speeds, and the color mode obviously keeps it at 5600 Kelvin for the entire power range. So but if we go back to action mode, I'll show you a comparison. Or here, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to put this flash, or all the flashes on action mode except for channel 1. I'm going to put that in constant color mode. And then I'll go back to the main menu here, and I'm going to show you some differences. So channel 1 is on color mode. So we'll drop that down to minimum power, and you can see it drops down. So we're pulling 1/8,000th of a second with that one. But if we go to any of these other ones and drop them down to 0 power, we're getting 1/13,000th of a second. So that is almost double the speed. So just there, you have twice the stopping power. So that's very useful. But of course, you can see it here at the lowest flash setting. You have 6400 Kelvin, which is almost 1,000 degrees Kelvin. So that's going to be quite a bit warmer than 5600 Kelvin. So that's just something to be aware of. This might actually, you might want to use action mode as a sunset set, so you can balance a little bit closer without pulling gels out. So you can use this to your advantage in several ways. But if you see here at full power, it's a little exposed, but it goes back to 5600 Kelvin, and that's actually how most Paul Buff lights are, at least the ones I've had, because I have Alien Bees and White Lightnings, and all of those seem to be at full power, 5600 Kelvin. I think I've pretty much covered the bases. One thing I did want to show is that if you want to, let's say, go in here and you have one flash that's pretty high power, or let's pull all these down. So let's say you have a couple of these flashes that are higher power than others, but you want to have all of the modeling lights at high power. You can go over to this menu here in the modeling lights, if you select all and pull them all up so you have all bright lights. So that's just a handy thing to have available. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'm here to help, so just let me know.